The small transport ship shook hard as it entered the atmosphere of Krava 7. The orange clouds outside the window looked like fire. The air was thick with ash and the smell of burning rock. Most passengers would feel fear at this moment, but Do-hyun just looked at his wife Yuna and smiled. "We are almost home," he said. Yuna nodded and held his hand. She was 72 years old. Her hair was gray and her face had many wrinkles. But her eyes were still bright and full of life. She had worked as a nurse for 40 years on Earth. Now, she wanted peace and quiet. The brochure said, "The sunsets are beautiful here," she said. The alien pilot, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, turned around. His name was Viklo. He had been flying ships for 60 years. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but nothing was stranger than these 2 old humans who wanted to live on a death world. "Are you sure about this?" Viklo asked for the 10th time. Krava 7 is classified as a Class 8 death world. The ground shakes every day. The volcanoes never stop. The rain is made of acid. Nothing should live here. Do-hyun laughed softly. "Young man, I grew up near a volcano in Jeju Island. This is nothing new to me." Viklo did not understand. He had checked the files on Earth. It was also classified as a death world. The humans had earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, and extreme temperatures. Yet, they lived there for thousands of years. They even called it home. The ship landed with a loud bang. The ground was black and hot. Steam rose from cracks in the earth. In the distance, a volcano shot red fire into the orange sky. The air smelled like rotten eggs. The door of the ship opened. Hot air rushed inside. Viklo covered his face with his 4 hands. But Do-hyun and Yuna just walked outside like it was a normal day. "Ah, this reminds me of the hot springs back home," Yuna said. She took a deep breath. "The sulfur smell is strong. It will be good for my joints." Do-hyun stretched his old bones. He was 75 years old. His back hurt sometimes. His knees made sounds when he walked. But he was still strong. He had worked as a factory worker for most of his life. Hard work had made his body tough. A small vehicle came toward them. It moved slowly over the rough ground. Inside was an alien who looked very nervous. He had green skin and large black eyes. His body was thin, and he had long fingers. His name was Tomo. He was the real estate agent. Tomo stepped out of the vehicle. His legs were shaking. He held a folder full of papers. His translator device made small buzzing sounds as it worked. "Welcome to Krava 7, Tomo said. His voice was high and scared. "I am Tomo. I will show you your new home." Do-hyun bowed politely. "Thank you for meeting us. The journey was long, but we are happy to be here." Tomo did not understand why anyone would be happy to be here. He had sold many properties in his life. He had sold beautiful homes on garden worlds. He had sold apartments on space stations with perfect weather, but no one ever wanted to buy property on Krava 7. The rent was cheap because no one wanted to live here. "Please follow me," Tomo said. "But be careful, the ground is not stable." They got into the vehicle. Tomo drove slowly. The road was rough and full of rocks. Sometimes the ground would shake, and Tomo would scream. But Do-hyun and Yuna just held onto their seats and laughed. "This is like the bus rides in the countryside," Yuna said. Do-hyun nodded. The roads were terrible, but the food was always good. Tomo listened to them talk. He could not believe what he was hearing. These humans were comparing a death world to their home planet. What kind of creatures were they? After 30 minutes, they arrived at a small house. It was made of strong metal and thick glass. The walls were designed to handle earthquakes. The windows could block acid rain. There was a small garden area outside, though nothing was growing there yet. "This is it," Tomo said. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room. The price is very low because of the location. Do-hyun looked at the house. It was simple but solid. He had seen the prices of homes on other planets. A small apartment on a safe world would cost 10 times more. Here, they could have a real house with land around it. "How much?" Do-hyun asked. Tomo named the price. It was so low that Do-hyun thought he heard wrong, but Tomo confirmed it. The rent was almost nothing. "We will take it," Yuna said immediately. Tomo's eyes grew even larger. But you have not seen inside yet. And I must warn you about the dangers. The volcanic activity is constant. The air quality is poor. The local wildlife is extremely dangerous. There are creatures here that eat metal. There are plants that release poison gas. Do-hyun put his hand on Tomo's shoulder. The alien flinched at the touch. Human hands were surprisingly strong. "Young friend," Do-hyun said gently. "My wife and I have lived through many things. We survived wars. We survived economic crashes. We raised 3 children. We worked until our bodies were tired. Now we just want a quiet place to rest. And we cannot afford the quiet places that are safe." Yuna walked toward the house. She looked at the orange sky and the distant volcanoes. She felt the warm ground under her feet. It was strange and alien. But somehow, it also felt like home. "The pension from Earth does not go far on nice planets," she explained to Tomo. "But here, we can live well. We can have space. We can have peace." Tomo handed them the keys with trembling fingers. "I must inform you that no emergency services come to this area quickly. If something happens, you are on your own." Do-hyun took the keys and smiled. "We humans have been on our own for a long time. We will manage." They spent the rest of the day moving their things into the house. They did not have much. Just some clothes, some photos, and cooking supplies. Do-hyun set up the kitchen, while Yuna cleaned the rooms. They worked together like they had done for 50 years. When night came, they sat outside on 2 old chairs. The sky was dark red. 3 moons hung above them, each one a different color. The volcano in the distance glowed like a giant lamp. The ground shook slightly every few minutes. Yuna made some tea. She had brought tea leaves from Earth. The water here tasted different, because of the minerals. But it was not bad. Just different. "Do you think the children will visit?" she asked. Do-hyun sipped his tea. Their children were adults now with their own families. They lived on Earth and on space stations. They had good jobs and busy lives. They had been worried when Do-hyun and Yuna announced their plan to retire on a Deathworld. "Maybe," Do-hyun said. "When they see we are happy, they will understand." A loud roar echoed across the land. Something large was moving in the darkness. Tomo had warned them about the creatures here. Some were as big as houses. Some had teeth that could cut through metal. Yuna stood up slowly. She walked to the edge of their small garden. She could see glowing eyes in the distance. Something was watching them. "Go away," she said firmly. "This is our home now." The creature made a strange sound. Then it turned and walked away. Its heavy footsteps shook the ground. But it left them alone. Do-hyun laughed. "You still have the nurse voice. Even monsters listen to you." Yuna sat back down. 40 years of telling patients to take their medicine. Even aliens cannot argue with me. They stayed outside until they were tired. Then they went inside their new home. The bed was simple but comfortable. The walls protected them from the harsh world outside. For the first time in many years, they felt free. They had no debts. They had no worries about rent. They had each other. And they had a whole new world to explore. It was dangerous and strange, but it was theirs. Do-hyun held Yuna's hand in the darkness. "Thank you for coming with me," he said. Yuna squeezed his hand. "Where else would I go? We have been together for 50 years. A little volcano will not change that." Outside, the planet continued its violent dance. Fire shot into the sky. The ground rumbled. Acid rain began to fall. But inside the small house, 2 old humans slept peacefully. They had found their retirement home, and nothing in the galaxy could scare them now. 1 week passed on Krava 7. Do-hyun and Yuna began to settle into their new life. They woke up early each morning. They ate breakfast together. They watched the volcanoes erupt in the distance like it was television. Life was simple and quiet, but they were not alone on this world. About 200 meters from their house lived another family. They were not human. They were Kivari, an insect-like species from a planet with perfect weather. The Kivari had 6 legs, hard shells on their backs, and large compound eyes that could see in many directions at once. The Kivari family had come to Krava 7 for the same reason as Do-hyun and Yuna. The rent was cheap. Their homeworld had become too expensive. Young Kivari could not afford to buy homes anymore, so this family had taken a risk. They had moved to a death world, but unlike the humans, the Kivari were not doing well. The father's name was Kito. He spent most of his time inside, afraid of the volcano ash in the air. His shell had started to crack from the heat. The mother, Vessi, tried to keep the family calm, but she was also scared. Their 2 children, small Kivari called Pip and Tola, had never seen such a dangerous place. Kito watched the human house through his window every day. He could not understand what he was seeing. "They are outside again," he said to Vessi. "The old female is digging in the ground. Does she not know the soil is poison? If you not are 2,000 of free," Vessi looked through the window. She saw Yuna on her knees in the dirt. The old human woman was wearing simple clothes and thick gloves. She was pushing something into the black earth. "What is she doing?" Vessi asked. "I do not know. Maybe she is burying something. Maybe she is performing a death ritual." Humans are known to be strange about death, but Yuna was not burying anything. She was planting seeds. Tomato seeds that she had brought from Earth. She had read that the volcanic soil was rich in minerals. With the right care, plants could grow here. She wanted to try. Do-hyun came outside with a watering can. The water inside had been filtered many times to remove the acid and poison. He helped Yuna water the small garden plot. "Do you think they will grow?" he asked. Yuna wiped sweat from her forehead. The air was hot, but she did not mind. Maybe not. But we have to try." "What is life without tomatoes?" Do-hyun laughed. His wife had always loved gardening. On Earth, their small apartment had been full of plants. Now she had real land to work with. Even if nothing grew, the trying would make her happy. Kito continued to watch. His compound eyes could see every detail. The old humans moved slowly but with purpose. They did not seem afraid at all. They did not seem to notice the danger around them. "They are insane," Kito said. "They will die soon. The soil will burn their skin. The air will damage their lungs. We should not get close to them." Vessi was not so sure. She had heard stories about humans. They were known throughout the galaxy as survivors. They came from a death world themselves. Maybe they knew something the Kivari did not. The next day, something unexpected happened. Do-hyun walked across the rocky ground toward the Kivari house. He moved slowly because of his old knees. In his hands, he carried a container. The container had strange red food inside. Kito saw him coming and panicked. "He is coming here. What do we do?" "Open the door," Vessi said. "We cannot be rude." Kito did not want to open the door. But Vessi pushed him aside and greeted the old human. "Hello," she said through her translator. "Can we help you?" Do-hyun smiled warmly. His face had many wrinkles, but his eyes were kind. "Hello, neighbors. My name is Do-hyun. My wife and I live in the house over there. We wanted to introduce ourselves and bring you a gift." He held out the container. The red food inside smelled strong and spicy. "This is kimchi," Do-hyun explained. "It is a traditional food from our home. We make it with vegetables and spices. It is good for health." Kito looked at the red food with suspicion. "Is it?" "I am not sure," Do-hyun admitted honestly, "but it is fermented, so it should not cause problems for most species. You can try a small amount first." Vessi took the container. She was touched by the gesture. No one had ever brought them food before. On their home world, neighbors did not interact much. Everyone was too busy working to afford their expensive homes. "Thank you," she said. "This is very kind." Do-hyun bowed his head politely. We are neighbors now. We should help each other. Life on this planet is hard, but it is easier if we work together. Pip and Tola, the two young Kivari children, peeked out from behind their mother. They had never seen a human before. Do-hyun looked strange to them. Only two eyes. Only two arms. Soft skin instead of a hard shell. Do-hyun waved at them. Hello, little ones. Do you like to play? The children hid behind Vesey. They were too shy to answer. They are not used to other species, Vesey explained. On our home world, we did not have many visitors. Do-hyun nodded. I understand. My grandchildren were also shy when they were young. But children always find ways to make friends. He looked around at the Kivari house. It was similar to his own. Strong walls, thick windows, built to survive this harsh world. But something was different. The Kivari family seemed trapped inside. Do you go outside much? Do-hyun asked. Kido spoke up. It is too dangerous. The air hurts our shells. The ground is too hot. We only go out when we must. Do-hyun thought about this. Have you tried wearing protection? On Earth, we wear special clothes for harsh weather. Maybe that would help. The Kivari looked at each other. They had not thought of this. Their species had never needed protective clothing before. Their shells were supposed to be enough. We do not know how to make such things, Vesey admitted. Do-hyun smiled. My wife used to be a nurse. She knows about protective gear. Maybe she can help you. We have some extra supplies that might work. Kito did not know what to say. This human stranger was offering to help them. On their home world, help always came with a price. Nothing was free. Why would you help us? Kito asked. We have nothing to offer you. Do-hyun looked at him with gentle eyes. We are old. We do not need much. But we need neighbors. We need community. On a planet like this, we cannot survive alone. If we help each other, maybe we can all live well. Vesey felt something warm in her chest. It was a feeling she had not experienced in a long time. It was hope. Please, come inside, she said. We can talk more. Do-hyun entered the Kivari home. It was clean but empty. They did not have many belongings. The move to Krava 7 had cost most of their savings. They could not afford to bring much with them. They sat and talked for a long time. Do-hyun learned that Kito used to be an engineer. Vesey was a teacher. They had lost their jobs when their company moved to a cheaper planet. Now they were trying to start over on this death world. It has been very hard, Vesey said. We are not built for this kind of place. Our bodies are failing. Do-hyun listened with compassion. Humans have a saying. What does not kill you makes you stronger. But I think that is only partly true. What does not kill you also teaches you. You learn to adapt, you learn to change. But how can we change? Kito asked. We are what we are. You can learn new ways, Do-hyun said. You can find new solutions. My wife and I are old. Our bodies are weak. But we use tools and knowledge to survive. You have intelligence. You can do the same. Later that day, Yuna came to the Kivari house. She brought fabric and tape and special creams that protected against acid. She showed Vesey how to wrap the children's legs so they would not crack in the heat. This is how we do it on Earth, Yuna explained. When the air is bad, we cover our skin. When the ground is dangerous, we wear thick shoes. The body is weak, but the mind finds ways. Pip and Tola let Yuna wrap their legs. At first, they were scared, but Yuna was gentle and patient. She hummed a soft song while she worked. The children began to relax. There, Yuna said when she was done. Now you can go outside and play. Just stay close to the house. The children looked at their parents. Vesey nodded. Slowly, Pip and Tola walked to the door. They opened it and stepped outside. The air was warm but not painful. The ground was hot, but their wrapped legs protected them. For the first time since arriving on Krava 7, they could be outside without suffering. Pip made a happy clicking sound. Tola jumped up and down. They began to run around the house, exploring this strange new world. Quito watched with tears in his compound eyes. He had not seen his children play in months. He had thought they would never be happy here. But these two old humans had changed everything. "Thank you," he said to Yuna. "Thank you so much." Yuna smiled warmly. "Children should play. It is good for them. Now, let me show you how to make more wraps. You will need many as they grow." That evening, the two families ate dinner together. The Kavari tried the kimchi. It was strange and spicy but not unpleasant. Do-hyun and Yuna tried the Kavari food, a paste made from minerals and water. It tasted like chalk, but they ate it politely. Outside, Krava 7 continued to rumble and burn. The volcanoes lit up the night sky. The ground shook beneath their feet, but inside the small house, two families from different worlds shared a meal together. Quito had thought the humans would die within weeks. Instead, they were teaching the Kavari how to survive. It was a lesson he would never forget. When the humans went home, Quito stood at his window and watched them walk across the rocky ground. Yuna was holding Do-hyun's arm. They moved slowly but steadily. Two old creatures on a young violent planet. "They are strange," Quito said to Vessi, "but I think I like them." Vessi stood beside him. "I think they are exactly what we needed. Maybe this planet is not so bad after all. Maybe we just needed the right neighbors." Ha! Outside, Yuna's tomato garden sat in the dark. Nothing had grown yet. But under the black soil, something was beginning to change. Tiny roots were pushing down into the earth. Life was finding a way, just like it always did. Just like humans always did. The warning came 3 days before the storm arrived. Every screen on Krava 7 showed the same message. A Category 9 plasma storm was coming. All residents were told to evacuate immediately. Ships would arrive to take them to safety. But Do-hyun looked at the message and shook his head. "We are not leaving," he said. Yuna was in the kitchen making soup. She looked at the warning and then returned to her cooking. "The house is strong. We will be fine." The emergency services could not believe what they were hearing. A plasma storm was one of the most dangerous events in the galaxy. It brought fire from the sky. It brought lightning that could melt metal. It brought winds that could tear buildings apart. An emergency worker called Do-hyun on the communication device. Her name was Pella. She was a small alien with silver fur and worried eyes. "Sir, you must evacuate," Pella said. "This storm will kill you. No structure on Krava 7 can survive a Category 9 event." Do-hyun scratched his gray hair. "How long will the storm last?" "At least 12 hours, maybe longer." "And where would we go?" Pella checked her computer. "The nearest safe station is 4 hours away. You would stay there until the storm passes. Then you could return." Do-hyun thought about this. 4 hours of travel. Then 12 hours of waiting. Then 4 hours of travel back. It would be expensive. They would have to leave everything behind. "No thank you," Do-hyun said politely. "We will stay here." Pella could not believe it. She had seen the records of humans. She knew they were tough. But this was crazy even for them. "Sir, I must tell you that if you stay, we cannot help you. All rescue services will be suspended during the storm." "I understand," Do-hyun said. "Thank you for the warning." He ended the call. Yuna brought him a bowl of soup. It was hot and smelled delicious. The tomatoes from her garden had finally grown. They were small and a strange purple color because of the minerals in the soil, but they tasted good. "We should check on the neighbors," Yuna said. They walked to the Kivari house. Quito and Vessi were packing their things in panic. The children were crying. They were all scared. "You must come with us," Quito said to Do-hyun. "The evacuation ships will arrive soon. We must leave now." Do-hyun looked at the family. They were terrified. He understood their fear. This was not their natural world. They did not know how to survive here. "Do you want to leave?" Do-hyun asked. Kido stopped packing. He looked at his wife and children. He looked at their small home. They had worked so hard to build a life here. If they left now, they might lose everything. The storm could destroy their house. They would have nothing to come back to. I do not know what to do, Kido admitted. I am scared. Do-hyun put his hand on Kido's shell. Then stay with us. Our house is strong. We have supplies. We can survive together. Vesey stepped forward. Is it really safe? Yuna smiled gently. Nothing is ever completely safe. But we have been through storms before. On Earth, we had hurricanes and typhoons. We learned how to survive them. The Kivari family looked at each other. They did not want to run. They did not want to abandon their home. But they were so afraid. Please, Pip said in a small voice. I do not want to leave. That decided it. The Kivari gathered their most important things and followed Do-hyun and Yuna to the human house. It was a strange group. 2 old humans. 2 adult Kivari. 2 young Kivari children. All of them preparing to face one of the most dangerous storms in the galaxy. Do-hyun spent the next 2 days preparing. He secured all the windows. He checked the structure of the house. He made sure they had enough food and water. Yuna prepared medical supplies just in case someone got hurt. Kido watched everything carefully. He was an engineer. He understood structures and materials. He was surprised by how well the human house was built. This is good construction, he said to Do-hyun. Who designed it? I do not know, Do-hyun admitted. But humans have been building shelters for thousands of years. We know how to survive. The storm arrived on the 3rd day. It started slowly. The sky turned from orange to deep red. The clouds began to swirl. A strange wind blew across the land, carrying dust and ash. Then the lightning began. It was not like normal lightning. It was plasma. Pure energy from space. It fell from the sky like rain, hitting the ground with explosive force. Each strike made a sound like thunder and bombs mixed together. The Kivari children screamed and hid under a table. Vesey held them close. Kido stood at the window, watching in horror as the world outside turned into chaos. But Do-hyun walked outside. Yuna did not try to stop him. She knew her husband. He needed to see the storm with his own eyes. He had always been like this. Curious even in danger. The plasma fell all around him. The wind pushed against his body. The heat was intense. But Do-hyun just stood there, looking up at the sky. What is he doing? Kido shouted. He will die. He is fine, Yuna said calmly. Just watch. Do-hyun reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a weather measuring tool he had brought from Earth. He held it up and recorded the data. Wind speed, temperature, air pressure. All the numbers he could gather. Then he walked back inside. His clothes were smoking slightly. His skin was red from the heat. But he was smiling. Category 9, they said. Do-hyun laughed. This is nothing. I have seen worse typhoons in Busan. Kido could not believe what he was seeing. This old human had walked into a plasma storm and come back alive. He had treated it like a minor inconvenience. How? Kido asked. How are you not dead? Do-hyun sat down and poured himself some tea. Humans have very good skin. It repairs itself quickly. Also, the plasma is not hitting the ground very hard here. The volcano ash in the air is absorbing some of the energy. He had figured this out by watching the storm. The ash clouds were actually protecting them. The plasma was breaking apart before it reached the surface. It was still dangerous, but not as deadly as it seemed. We are going to be fine, Do-hyun said. The house will hold. We just need to wait. The storm raged for 14 hours. During that time, the group inside the house did something unexpected. They became a family. Yuna cooked food for everyone. She made human food and tried to make something the Kivari could eat too. It was not perfect, but everyone ate together. Do-hyun told stories about Earth. He talked about the mountains and oceans. He talked about the cities and the countryside. The Kivari listened with wonder. Earth sounded like an impossible place, But the humans had survived there for thousands of years. Pip and Tola stopped being afraid. They played games with Yuna. She taught them how to fold paper into shapes. It was a simple activity, but the children loved it. Quito and Vessi sat together, holding hands. They realized something important. They were not alone anymore. They had neighbors who cared about them. They had friends who would face danger beside them. When the storm finally ended, they all went outside together. The landscape had changed. Some rocks had melted. Some areas were covered in black glass from the heat. But the houses were still standing. Both houses had survived. Emergency services arrived 2 hours later. Pella was among them. She had expected to find bodies. Instead, she found Do-hyun standing outside with a piece of meat on a stick. "What are you doing?" Pella asked in shock. Do-hyun pointed to a crack in the ground. Heat was rising from deep below. "Grilling," he said simply. "The ground is the perfect temperature." "Want some?" Pella stared at him. She had been an emergency worker for 20 years. She had seen many things, but she had never seen someone use a plasma storm to cook food. Other refugees began to arrive. News of the humans who stayed had spread. Aliens from all over Krava 7 came to see if it was true. Had someone really survived a Category 9 storm without evacuation? They found Do-hyun cooking meat. They found Yuna handing out blankets to those who were cold and scared. They found Quito and Vessi helping to check people for injuries. The Kivari children ran around offering paper animals to everyone. "Look what the human grandmother taught us," they shouted happily. For the next several hours, the human house became an emergency shelter. People who had nowhere to go came there. Yuna treated those who were hurt. Do-hyun made sure everyone had food. The Kivari helped organize everything. Pella watched all of this with amazement. These old humans had not only survived, they had turned a disaster into a community event. They were taking care of strangers as if they were family. "Why do you do this?" Pella asked Yuna. "You do not know these people." Minister why, and well too why. Yuna handed a cup of hot tea to a shivering alien. "On Earth, we have a saying. A stranger is just a friend you have not met yet. These people need help. We can help. So we help." By the time night fell, the emergency was over. The refugees had found places to go. The emergency services had set up proper shelters. But many of them would remember this day forever. The old humans who stayed. The old humans who shared their food. The old humans who treated a Category 9 plasma storm like bad weather. When everyone left, Do-hyun and Yuna sat outside with the Kivari family. The sky was calm now. The moons were bright. The volcanoes in the distance glowed peacefully. "Thank you," Quito said, "for everything." Do-hyun waved his hand. "We did nothing special. We just did what any neighbor would do." But Quito knew that was not true. Most people would have run. Most people would have thought only of themselves. But these humans thought of everyone. Pip climbed onto Yuna's lap. The young Kivari had grown attached to the old human woman. Yuna held him gently and hummed a soft song. "I like living here," Pip said quietly. Yuna smiled and stroked his shell. "I like living here too." Above them, the stars began to appear. Somewhere out in the galaxy, news of what happened on Krava 7 was starting to spread. The story of the humans who stayed in a plasma storm. The story of the cheap rent that attracted the toughest species in the universe. This was only the beginning. 6 months after the plasma storm, Krava 7 began to change. More ships arrived every week. More settlers came to start new lives. And many of them were humans. The news had spread across the galaxy. There was a Deathworld, where old humans lived peacefully. The rent was cheap, the land was plentiful, and if you could survive the volcanoes and acid rain, you could have a good life there. Taewon was one of the first to arrive after the storm. He was 68 years old with a bald head and strong arms. He had worked as a fisherman on Earth for 40 years. When his boat was destroyed by a storm, he lost everything. He could not afford to live on Earth anymore. "Is this the place?" Taewon asked when he stepped off the ship. The place where rent is cheap? Do-hyun met him at the landing area. Word had spread that the old humans welcomed newcomers. Do-hyun had become something of a community leader, though he never asked for the role. "This is the place," Do-hyun said. "Come, I will show you around." Taewon looked at the orange sky and the black ground. He smelled the sulfur in the air. He felt the heat on his skin. And he laughed. "This is nothing," Taewon said. "I have been in worse storms at sea. At least here the ground does not move." Do-hyun smiled. He liked this man already. More humans came after Taewon. Nari arrived next. She was 65 and had been a schoolteacher. She came alone. Her husband having passed away years ago, she wanted a new start, somewhere far from her memories. "Can I teach here?" she asked Yuna. "Are there children?" Yuna pointed to Pip and Tola, who were playing in the distance. The Kivari children had grown stronger over the months. They ran and jumped without fear now. Their wrapped legs protected them from the heat. "There are always children who need teaching," Yuna said. Then came Old Sung. He was the oldest of all of them at 82. He walked with a cane and his back was bent. But his mind was sharp, and his eyes were clear. He had been a doctor on Earth. He had retired 10 years ago but felt useless doing nothing. "I heard there is no hospital here," Sung said to Do-hyun. "Is this true?" "It is true," Do-hyun admitted. "The nearest medical facility is hours away." Sung nodded slowly. "Then I will start one. I am old, but I can still help." The human community grew week by week. They built new houses near Do-hyun and Yuna's home. They used the same strong designs that could survive storms and earthquakes. They created a small village in the shadow of the volcanoes. The aliens who already lived on Krava 7 watched this with amazement. They could not understand why humans would choose to live here. But they could not deny the results. The human village was thriving. Taewon started a fishing operation in the acid lakes. The fish there were strange and dangerous. They had teeth and poison in their blood. But Taewon learned how to catch them safely. He learned how to prepare them so they were safe to eat. Soon he was selling fish to the whole settlement. "The poison is in the liver," he explained to Kido one day. "You remove the liver, and the meat is safe. It is just like the pufferfish on Earth. Deadly if you do it wrong. Delicious if you do it right." Kido tried the fish. It was actually good. A little spicy from the minerals in the water. But good. Nari started a school. At first, she only had Pip and Tola as students. But more families arrived. More children needed education. Soon, she had a class of 15 students from 5 different species. "Today we will learn about gravity," Nari said to her class. "Every planet has different gravity. On Earth, humans weigh more than here. On Krava 7, we feel lighter. This is why we can jump higher," she demonstrated by jumping. The children laughed and tried to jump too. The Kivari children jumped highest because their legs were made for it. But the human children tried hard. Yes, there were human children now too. A family named Bae had arrived with 3 young children. The parents were only in their 40s, not retired like the others. But they had lost their home on Earth and could not afford anywhere else. "We did not expect to find other humans here," the mother, Hana, said to Yuna. "We thought we would be alone." Yuna hugged her warmly. "You are never alone here. We take care of each other." Old Sung opened his clinic in a small building near the village center. He did not have much equipment at first, just basic tools and medicine he brought from Earth. But he made it work. His first patient was an alien who had been burned by lava. The creature was in great pain. Other doctors had said nothing could be done. But Sung looked at the wound and thought carefully. "On Earth, we treat burns with skin grafts," he said. "Your species does not have the same skin, but maybe we can adapt the technique." He worked for hours. He used materials from the local environment. He created a new treatment that had never been tried before. It was risky. It might not work, but it did work. The alien recovered completely. Word of this miracle spread quickly. Aliens from other parts of Krava 7 came to see the human doctor. Sung treated them all, no matter what species they were. He charged almost nothing. He just wanted to help. "Why do you work so hard?" Sung's assistant asked him one day. The assistant was a young Kivari named Renko who had become interested in medicine. Sung leaned on his cane and looked out the window at the village. "When I retired on Earth, I felt useless. I sat in my apartment and watched television all day. I waited to die. But here, I have purpose. Here, I can still save lives. That is worth more than any amount of money." The village continued to grow. More buildings appeared. A small market opened where people could trade goods. Taewan sold his fish. Another human sold vegetables grown in the volcanic soil. The Kivari sold crafts made from materials they found on the planet. Communication improved too. The village got faster internet connections. The humans could now video call their families on Earth and other planets. Yuna talked to her children every week. She showed them her tomato garden, which was now large and productive. "Mother, are you really happy there?" her daughter asked one day. "It looks so dangerous," Yuna laughed. "Daughter, I have never been happier. I have friends. I have purpose. I have your father. What more could I need?" And the daughter did not understand. But she was glad her mother was doing well. Not everything was perfect, of course. There were problems. Arguments happened. Resources were sometimes short. The planet was still dangerous, and accidents occurred. But the community handled these challenges together. When there was a dispute, the elders met to discuss it. When someone needed help, everyone contributed. When disaster struck, they all worked to recover. Do-hyun often thought about how strange his life had become. A year ago, he was a retired factory worker with no savings. He had been worried about how he would survive. He had been scared about the future. Now he was part of something bigger. He was a leader in a growing community. He had friends from different planets. He had purpose and meaning in his old age. One evening, the whole village gathered for a celebration. It was the one-year anniversary of Do-hyun and Yuna's arrival on Krava 7. Everyone wanted to thank them for being the first, for showing that it was possible. Taewan brought fish from his lakes. Nari brought food from her garden. Old Sung brought medicine and good cheer. The Kivari family brought their traditional music, which sounded strange but beautiful. Do-hyun stood in front of everyone. He was not good at speeches. He had never been comfortable with attention. But these people were looking at him with such warmth that he felt he had to say something. "When my wife and I came here," he began slowly, "we did not know what to expect. We came because it was cheap. We came because we had no other choice. We did not come to start anything." He looked at Yuna. She smiled and nodded for him to continue, but something happened. "We met neighbors. We helped each other. We became a community. Now we have doctors and teachers. We have fishermen and farmers. We have children and elders. We have a village." He paused and looked at all the faces watching him. Humans and Kivari and other species too. All of them living together on a death world. "The galaxy thinks we are crazy," Do-hyun said. "They think we are here because we are too poor to live anywhere else. And that is partly true. But it is not the whole truth." He raised his cup of tea. "We are here because we choose to be here. We are here because life is not about being safe. Life is about living. And we are living. Together. On this strange and dangerous planet, and I would not change it for anything." Everyone cheered. Cups were raised. Music played. Children ran around laughing. Old Sung told jokes that made everyone groan. Taewan argued about fishing with anyone who would listen. Yuna sat beside her husband and held his hand. They watched their community celebrate. The volcanoes glowed in the distance. The moons rose over the orange sky. The ground rumbled softly beneath their feet. It was not a safe place. It was not an easy place. But it was home. And for a bunch of old humans who had been forgotten by the galaxy, that was more than enough. Pip climbed onto Do-hyun's lap. The young Kivari had grown a lot in the past year. His shell was harder now. His legs were stronger. Uncle Do-hyun, Pip said. When I grow up, will I be like you? Do-hyun laughed. I hope you will be better than me. I hope you will be brave and kind. I hope you will help others when they need it. Pip thought about this. That sounds hard. It is hard, Do-hyun agreed. But it is worth it. The party continued late into the night. When it finally ended, families walked home under the strange stars of Krava 7. They said goodnight to each other. They promised to meet again tomorrow, because that is what communities do. They come together. They support each other. They survive, even on a death world. Even when the rent is cheap. Even when the galaxy thinks they are crazy. Especially then. 3 years after Do-hyun and Yuna first arrived on Krava 7, something unexpected happened. The galaxy began to pay attention. It started with a small article in a galactic news network. A reporter named Zella had heard rumors about a strange community on a death world. She traveled to Krava 7 to see for herself. What she found amazed her. This is incredible, Zella said, as she walked through the village. You have built a functioning society here. On a Class 8 death world. Do-hyun walked beside her, showing her around. He had become the unofficial mayor of the village, though he never used that title. We just did what needed to be done, he said simply. Zella recorded everything. The houses, the market, the school, the clinic, the gardens where impossible vegetables grew in volcanic soil, the fishing boats that braved acid lakes. But why? Zella asked. Why would humans choose to live here when there are so many safer places in the galaxy? Do-hyun stopped walking. He looked at the orange sky, at the distant volcanoes, at the children playing in the streets. Have you ever tried to retire on a safe planet? He asked. Zella shook her head. She was young. She had not thought about retirement yet. The safe planets are expensive, Do-hyun explained. The garden worlds with perfect weather. The space stations with controlled environments. They cost so much that a normal person cannot afford them, especially an old person who can no longer work. He pointed to an old human woman walking by. It was Nari, the teacher. She waved at them cheerfully. She was a teacher for 40 years. Do-hyun said. She educated thousands of children. But her pension was not enough to live on a safe world. She would have spent her last years in a tiny apartment, eating cheap food, waiting to die. He pointed to old Sung, who was sitting outside his clinic, talking to patients. He was a doctor. He saved countless lives. But the same thing. Not enough money for a comfortable retirement. So, he came here. Zella began to understand. The rent here is cheap because no one wants to live on a death world. Exactly, Do-hyun said. The landlords are afraid of this planet. The property values are low because who would buy property on a world that could kill you? But humans come from a death world. Earth is classified as a Class 6 death world. We are used to danger, so we can live here when others cannot. This revelation changed how Zella saw everything. These were not crazy people seeking adventure. These were not thrill seekers or risk takers. These were ordinary people. Teachers, doctors, factory workers, fishermen. They had worked their whole lives. And the only retirement they could afford was on a planet that terrified the rest of the galaxy. Zella's article spread quickly through the galactic networks. It was titled, Humans Retire on Death Worlds because the rent is lower. The story touched something deep in many beings across the galaxy. Within weeks, economists began to study the phenomenon. They found that Krava 7 was not alone. There were humans on other death worlds too. Volcanic planets, frozen wastelands, toxic swamps. Anywhere the property values were low, there were humans trying to survive. A famous economist named Professor Miko gave a lecture about it. He was a tall alien, with silver skin and 3 eyes. He had studied economics for 200 years. The The humans have discovered a loophole in the galactic economy, Professor Miko explained to his students. They are biologically adapted to survive in conditions that other species cannot tolerate. This gives them access to housing markets that are essentially closed to everyone else. He showed charts and graphs. The data was clear. Deathworld property was cheap. Human retirees had limited money. The math worked out perfectly, but there is something more interesting here. Professor Miko continued. The humans are not just surviving, they are thriving. They are building communities. They are improving the value of these Deathworld properties. Some of them are even becoming attractive to other species now. This was true. Krava 7 had changed in the 3 years since Do-hyun arrived. The human village had grown into a small town. Other species had joined them. The Kivari, the silver-furred Pella, who had quit her emergency services job to help Sung at the clinic. Aliens who had been too poor to live anywhere else, but found hope here. The property values on Krava 7 were still low compared to safe worlds, but they were rising. The landlords who had been afraid of the planet were now seeing profits. The same death world that no one wanted was becoming desirable, but this created a new problem. One day, a group of officials came to the village. They were from the Galactic Housing Authority. They wore expensive suits and carried important documents. We are here to conduct an assessment, the lead official said. If this settlement continues to grow, we may need to reclassify the property values. This could result in higher rents. Do-hyun listened carefully. He understood what was happening. The very success of the community was threatening to make it unaffordable. How much higher? He asked. The official checked his documents. Potentially 3 to 5 times the current rates. Maybe more, if development continues. The news spread through the village quickly. People were worried. They had come here because it was cheap. If the rent increased that much, many of them would have to leave. They would lose their homes. Again, a meeting was called that night. Everyone gathered in the community center that they had built together. Humans and Kivari and other species. Old and young, all of them facing the same problem. What do we do? Hana asked. She was holding her youngest child. We cannot afford higher rent. We have nowhere else to go. Quote, Old Sung stood up slowly. His bones ached, but his voice was strong. We did not come here to get rich. We came here to live. If they raise the rent, they are taking our lives away. Taewon slammed his fist on a table. Then we fight. We refuse to pay. But Do-hyun raised his hand for silence. Fighting will not help. The officials are just following rules. We need to think of another way. He was quiet for a long moment. Everyone watched him, waiting. The reason the rent was cheap, Do-hyun said slowly, is because no one wanted to live here. The landlords were afraid. But we showed them it was possible. We made this place valuable. We did the hard work. He looked around at all the faces. What if we owned the land ourselves? What if we bought it before they raised the prices? The room went silent. It was an interesting idea. But where would they get the money? Nari spoke up. All of us together have some savings. Not much individually, but combined. Kido did some calculations in his head. He was still an engineer, even if he no longer worked as one. If every family contributed what they could, we might have enough for a down payment. But we would need a loan for the rest. Who would give us a loan? Vesey asked. We are old retirees on a death world. No bank would take that risk. But then something remarkable happened. Zella, the reporter, had kept in contact with the village. She had grown to care about these people. She had told their story to the galaxy. And the galaxy had listened. Within days of the news about the potential rent increase, donations began to arrive. Small amounts from individuals who had read the article. Larger amounts from organizations that supported elderly rights. Even some galactic corporations contributed. Seeing it as good publicity, the humans and their alien neighbors could not believe it. Strangers from across the galaxy were helping them. In the end, they raised enough money to buy the land. Not just the village, but a large area around it. Enough space for the community to grow for generations. When the deal was signed, there was a celebration even bigger than the anniversary parties. People danced in the streets. Old Sung cried tears of joy. The Kavari children ran around screaming with happiness. Do-hyun stood at the edge of the celebration, watching. Yuna found him there and took his hand. "You did this," she said. "You started all of this." Do-hyun shook his head. "I did not do anything. I just came here to retire. Everyone else did the rest." But Yuna knew better. Her husband was always humble. He never took credit. But she knew the truth. His kindness had started everything. His willingness to help neighbors. His calm during the storm. His leadership that never demanded to be called leadership. Years later, when historians wrote about the human settlement of Deathworlds, they would point to Krava 7 as the beginning. They would write about how a retired factory worker and his nurse wife changed the galaxy, not through war or technology or politics, but through something simpler: community, kindness, survival. The galactic economists finally understood. Humans retired on Deathworlds because the rent was lower. That was true. But that was not the whole story. Humans retired on Deathworlds because they had to, and once they arrived, they did what humans always did. They adapted. They built. They helped each other. They turned dangerous places into homes. The rent was lower on Deathworlds. But the value of human community was priceless. Do-hyun lived for another 15 years on Krava 7. He saw the village become a town. He saw the town become a city. He saw his grandchildren visit and fall in love with the orange skies and glowing volcanoes. When he finally passed away at age 90, peacefully in his sleep with Yuna beside him, the whole planet mourned. Flags were lowered. Volcanoes seemed to burn less bright. Even the ground stopped shaking for a day, as if the planet itself was saying goodbye. He was buried in the volcanic soil he had learned to love. A simple grave with a simple stone. The words on it were chosen by Yuna. He came here because the rent was cheap. He stayed because he found home. Yuna followed him 2 years later. She was buried beside him. Their graves became a place of pilgrimage. Humans and aliens from across the galaxy came to see where it all began. The story of Krava 7 inspired others. More Deathworld communities formed. More forgotten people found places to belong. The galaxy learned that the cheapest real estate could produce the richest lives. And somewhere in the distance, the volcanoes continued to burn. The acid rain continued to fall. The ground continued to shake. But in the city that Do-hyun and Yuna had accidentally founded, life went on. Children played in the streets. Old people sat in the sun and told stories. Neighbors helped neighbors. It was not a safe place. It was not an easy place. But it was home, and that was all that mattered.